You know what happens after the storm? Not the sunshine. Not immediately. First there's that moment of stillness. That quiet where you look around and realize, we made it through. And something in your chest that's been clenched for weeks, finally lets go. That's where we left Jack. Loan paid. Deadline gone. Uncle Dun, Mother Loy, Tien, all three of them standing there like pillars, holding him up when his own legs forgot how. But here's the question everybody's been asking since video 1, what happens next? Because solving a crisis is one thing, but building a life after it? Building something real, something lasting, with the people who showed up for you when everything was falling apart? That's the real story, and today, that's exactly where we're going. Before we dive in, if you're new here, hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell, and if you watched video 1, drop a comment below, tell me did you see this coming? Because what happens in this video? I don't think anyone predicted it. Let's start with the morning after. Jack wakes up early. Habit. He's always been a man who rises before the sun, who thinks best when the world is still quiet. But this morning is different. This morning there's no spiral of numbers behind his eyes, no ticking clock, no weight pressing down on his chest like something he can't put down. Just light, coming through the window, soft and gold. He lies there for a moment, just breathing. When was the last time I just breathed? Downstairs he can hear Mother Loy moving around the kitchen. The familiar sounds, a pot, the kettle, her soft humming. He knows that song. She used to sing it when he was a boy, when the world felt too big and she wanted him to know, you're safe. I'm here. He goes downstairs. She turns when she hears his footsteps. You're up early, she says, and then she looks at his face, really looks, and something in her expression relaxes, like she's been watching for this, waiting for it. You look better. I feel better, Jack says. And means it. They have breakfast together. Simple food. Rice porridge, a few vegetables, the last of the bamboo shoots Tien brought back from the mountain. They don't talk about the loan. They don't need to. Sometimes the heaviest conversations are the ones you never have to say out loud, because the people who love you already understand. But then Mother Loy puts down her spoon, looks at him carefully. Jack, there's something I want to talk to you about. You felt it coming, didn't you? Jack looks up. What is it, Mom? Mother Loy folds her hands on the table. She's not nervous exactly. This woman has never been the nervous type. But there's something careful in the way she's choosing her words. Like she's been rehearsing this. Like she's said it 100 times in her head, and is only now saying it out loud. Uncle Dun, she begins. He's been very kind. Recently. Jack keeps his face steady. He has. He didn't have to help us, but he did. And I want you to know. She pauses. Looks out the window. I want you to know that I appreciate him. Not just for what he did, but for who he is. A long beat of silence. Jack watches his mother's face. Sees the color rising in her cheeks. Sees the way her hands are holding each other just a little too tight. And here's what Jack does in that moment. He smiles. Not a polite smile. Not a surprised one. A real smile. Warm. Like he's been waiting for this conversation and is relieved it's finally here. Mom, he says gently. I know. Mother Loy blinks. You know? You think I haven't noticed? The way he looks at you? The way you laugh a little differently when he's in the room? Jack reaches across the table, takes her hand. I see it, Mom. I've seen it for a while. Mother Loy lets out a breath she's been holding. I didn't want you to think. What? That my mother deserves to be happy? Jack squeezes her hand. You've given everything for me. Your whole life. You sacrificed, and worked, and never once asked for anything for yourself. If Uncle Dun makes you smile like that, he shakes his head. That's not something I'd ever stand in the way of, not for a single second. Mother Loy's eyes go bright. You really mean that? More than anything. And here's that moment, that small, quiet, completely ordinary moment, that somehow holds everything beautiful about this family. A mother and her son, at a breakfast table, giving each other permission to move forward. Not with fanfare, not with drama, just with love. That morning, Jack goes to the office. Fook is already there. Of course he is. The boy has been arriving 30 minutes early every single day since he started. Jacket ironed, notebook open, coffee already made. Jack noticed on day 1. He hasn't said anything about it yet, but he's noticed. Good morning, Uncle Jack, Fook says, standing up. Sit down, sit down. Jack waves him off, but he's smiling. What are we looking at today? Fook flips open his notebook. The bridge project timeline, material delivery for the other site, and I made a list of the pending client calls you need to return. Jack stops, looks at the list. It's organized, color-coded actually, by priority. You made this yourself? Yes, Uncle. I thought it might help you manage your time better. But if you have a different system, no, Jack says. This is good, Fook. This is really good. And something small but important happens in Jack's chest. That same feeling from the bridge site, about how every structure is only as strong as its connections. He's building something here. Not just a company, not just a bridge, but a team, a foundation, the kind that lasts. Come on, Jack says. Walk me through the timeline. Tell me what you see. And Fook, this young, recently graduated kid, who came to Jack with nothing but enthusiasm and good instincts, he stands up straight, opens his notebook, and begins. By midday, something has shifted. Jack can feel it. Not dramatically, not like a thunderclap, more like the way light changes between morning and afternoon. Subtle, but unmistakably real. The pressure isn't gone. It never fully disappears. Not for a man building something from the ground up, but it feels different now. Manageable. Like carrying something heavy with two good handles instead of trying to grip something smooth with bare hands. His phone buzzes. A message from Tien. Finished at the farm. Making dinner tonight. Come home early. I have something I want to tell you. Jack reads it twice. I have something I want to tell you. He smiles, types back. I'll be there. Here's something nobody tells you about love. The big moments, the confessions, the grand gestures, the dramatic declarations. Those are easy to see, easy to remember. But the real love, the kind that holds through everything, it lives in the small things. A message that says come home early. A dinner made with tired hands after a long day at the farm. The way someone saves the best piece of food for you without being asked. That's what's waiting for Jack tonight. He leaves the office at 5. First time in weeks he hasn't stayed until dark. Fook watches him go with wide eyes. Like he's witnessing something rare. A comet maybe. Or the first rain after a long dry season. Good night, Uncle Jack, Fook calls. Lock up when you're done, Jack says. And then at the door he turns back. Fook, yes, Uncle? Good work today. Really? Fook tries to look professional about it. He almost manages it, but Jack catches the grin breaking through before the door swings shut. That boy, Jack thinks. He's going to be something. The farm is golden when he arrives. Late afternoon sun, long shadows, the smell of soil and something cooking, garlic and something sweeter underneath. Jack parks and sits for just a moment before getting out, just takes it in. He used to rush through moments like this. Always somewhere to be, always something to solve. But lately, since that evening on the road, since Tien stood beside him and said together like it was the most natural word in the world, lately he's been learning to stop, to look, to actually be somewhere instead of just passing through it. Tien is in the kitchen. He can hear her moving, hear the soft sound of the radio playing something old and gentle. He pushes open the door and she turns and her face does that thing where it just opens, like a window you've been waiting all day to see light come through. You're early, she says. Pleased, you asked me to be, Jack says simply. She turns back to the stove. Sit down, it's almost ready. Jack sits at the kitchen table, watches her cook. There's something almost sacred about this, watching the person you love move through a space like they belong in it completely. They talk while she finishes. The bridge project. The grape harvest. Mrs. Hoa from the neighboring plot, who stopped by and somehow stayed 2 hours. Jack mentions the morning conversation with Mother Loa. Tien's face lights up immediately. She told you? She was nervous about it, Jack says. She didn't need to be. She's been wanting to for weeks. Tien shakes her head, smiling. She kept asking me, do you think Jack will mind? What if he thinks it's too soon? I kept telling her, just tell him. Jack loves you. He wants you to be happy. You were right, Jack says. I'm usually right, Tien says, and her eyes are laughing. Jack points his chopsticks at her. Don't get comfortable with that. She laughs, really laughs, the kind that fills a room. And Jack thinks, how did I get this lucky? After dinner, they wash up together, side by side at the sink, passing dishes back and forth. Ordinary, domestic, perfect. Then Tien dries her hands, folds the towel neatly over the rack, and turns to him. Okay, she says. Now I'll tell you. Jack leans against the counter, waits. She takes a breath. You know, I've been thinking about the farm, about what we're building here. The grapes, the vegetables, the land. She looks at him steadily. I've been thinking about the future. Tell me, Jack says. I want to do more, Tien says. Her voice gaining energy the way it always does when she talks about something she really believes in. Not just sell at the market, not supply to middlemen who take most of the profit. I've been researching. There are ways to sell directly, to restaurants in the city, to premium markets, better prices, more control. We could build something real here, Jack. Something that actually grows. Jack is quiet, watching her. I know it's not simple, she continues. I know it takes time and connections, and to Tien. She stops. I think that's one of the best ideas I've heard in a long time. She blinks. You do. Direct supply chains, premium positioning, fresh, locally grown, no middlemen. He's nodding now, the businessman's mind already moving. The restaurant market in the city has been expanding. There's real demand for farm-to-table sourcing right now. Have you made any contacts yet? One, she says. A restaurant owner, Mrs. Lan. She came to the market last month, bought from me, gave me her card, said if I ever wanted to supply regularly, to call. Call her, Jack says immediately. Tien stares at him. Just like that? Just like that. He crosses the kitchen. You've been holding on to this idea for how long? A few weeks. Why didn't you say something sooner? She looks down. Because you had so much to worry about. The loan, the company. I didn't want to add to it. And here it is again. The same thing that almost broke Jack. The instinct to carry things alone. To protect the people you love by keeping them away from your worries. He sees it in her now, clear as a mirror. He puts his hands on her shoulders. Waits until she looks up. To Tien. Do you remember what you said to me? On the road? She knows exactly what he means. Together, she says softly. Together, he confirms. That means your plans are my plans. Your dreams are our dreams. The farm, the company, all of it. We're not protecting each other from what we want. We're building it. Together. Something in her face shifts. That last held breath, finally released. Okay, she says. Together. That night Uncle Dun comes by the farm. Unplanned. Or at least, that's what he says. He was in the area, passing through, thought he'd check in. Mother Loy answers the door, and there's that moment, just a second, where both of them seem to forget what to say. Jack watches from across the room, pretends to be very interested in his tea. Tien appears at his shoulder, whispers, look at her face. Mother Loy is smiling, not her regular smile, the other one, the one that's somehow younger, lighter, like someone turned a lamp on behind her eyes. I see it, Jack whispers back. Stop staring, Tien tells him. You're staring too. I'm being discreet about it. They both look away immediately as Uncle Dun and Mother Loy turn toward the room. Jack, Uncle Dun says warmly. You look well. I feel well, Jack says, and stands to greet him. Come in, Uncle Dun. Tien was just about to make tea. I was? Tien says. Jack gives her a look. I was, she confirms pleasantly. The four of them settle into the living room. And the word for it, the only word, is easy. The conversation flows without effort. Laughter comes naturally. Uncle Dun asks about the company. Jack asks about his business. Tien tells the story of Mrs. Hoa's 2-hour visit, and everyone laughs at exactly the right moment. And Mother Loy just sits there, in the middle of everyone she loves, and she glows. This, Jack thinks. This is what I was protecting. This is why it mattered. Not the loan. Not the deadline. But this room. These people. This ordinary, extraordinary evening. Late, when Uncle Dun has gone and the dishes are done. Jack and Tien sit outside. The air is cool. The stars are out. She's happy, Tien says quietly. Yeah, Jack agrees. She is. A comfortable silence. The good kind. The kind that doesn't need to be filled. Then Tien says, Jack, do you ever think about? His phone rings. Unknown number. He almost doesn't answer. But something instinct, maybe, or just the habit of a man who built a business by never ignoring a call, makes him pick up. Hello? A pause. Then a voice. Male. Calm. Deliberate. Is this Jack? Jack from Min Kang Construction? Yes. Who is this? Another pause. Longer. My name is Hay. I'm a contractor from the northern province. I've been looking for you for a while. Something careful underneath the steadiness. I have a project. A big one. And I think you're the right man for it. Jack sits forward. What kind of project? The kind that could change the direction of your company. But I'd prefer to speak in person. Can you meet me this week? Jack looks at Tien. She's watching him. Reading his face the way she always does, quietly, completely. 3 seconds. Decision made. Yes, Jack says. I can meet you. Here's what nobody tells you about opportunity. It doesn't arrive with fanfare. Doesn't come wrapped in certainty. It shows up quietly, sometimes as a phone call, sometimes as a stranger's voice on a Tuesday night saying I've been looking for you. And the only question that matters, are you ready? A week ago Jack wasn't. A week ago he was drowning in numbers and silence. But today he's paid his debts, built his team, and learned finally fully how to let people love him. Today Jack is ready. The meeting is Wednesday. A coffee shop in town. Neutral ground. Jack tells Fook the next morning. Not everything, just enough. Potential new client. Contractor from the north. Big project. Fuchs' pen is already moving. Portfolio? Updated project list? Cost frameworks? Jack pauses. Can you have it by Tuesday? Fuchs doesn't blink. I'll have it by Monday. Monday then. Monday comes. Fuchs delivers. The portfolio is clean, thorough, impressive. Project photos, timelines, cost breakdowns, references. And at the back, a one-page company profile that somehow captures exactly what Min Kang Construction is and what it's becoming. Jack reads it slowly, twice. Where did you learn to do this? He asks finally. I researched, Fuchs says carefully. I looked at what makes our company different from others, what clients actually want to see. He pauses. You told me on the bridge site, first day. We care about the details nobody sees, the steel inside the concrete, the welds that hold under pressure. Jack is quiet for a long moment. Good, he says. This is very good. And Fuchs, professional, composed, color-coded notebook Fuchs, cannot stop the grin. Tuesday evening, Tien calls Mrs. Lan. She's been rehearsing it all day. While weeding the grape rows, while washing the harvest baskets, standing at the kitchen sink, going over the words, pretending not to be nervous. Jack sits nearby, not hovering, just present. She dials. 3 rings. 4. Hello Lan Restaurant. Tien straightens. Hello Mrs. Lan. My name is Tien. We met at the market last month. You bought sweet bamboo shoots. You gave me your card. Warmth flooding down the line immediately. Tien. Of course. My customers asked about those bamboo shoots specifically. Tien exhales. Catches Jack's eye across the room. He gives her one small nod. You've got this. Mrs. Lan, I wanted to talk about regular supply. Not just bamboo shoots. I have grapes coming in next harvest. Fresh vegetables, seasonal produce. All farm grown, no middlemen. The conversation that follows lasts 45 minutes. By the end of it, Tien has her first restaurant contract. Small, twice a week, 1-month trial. But real, confirmed, hers. She hangs up and sits very still, staring at the phone. Well, Jack says. She looks up, and the smile that breaks across her face, slow at first, then absolutely unstoppable, is the most beautiful thing Jack has seen in weeks. First delivery Friday, she says. Jack crosses the room in 3 steps, pulls her into a hug that lifts her off the ground. I told you, he says into her hair. You told me, she agrees, laughing. Direct supply chain, premium positioning. You don't have to repeat the whole thing. Fresh, locally grown, Jack. He puts her down. But they're both grinning, fully and without apology, and the kitchen is just full of that 2 people who love each other, celebrating something small that is actually enormous. Because every great thing starts with a first step, and this is theirs. Wednesday, coffee shop, 9 a.m. Hai arrives exactly on time. Mid-40s, solid build, the kind of tan you get from years of outdoor work. He shakes Jack's hand with the grip of someone who builds things for a living and sits down without ceremony. Jack likes him immediately, same instinct that told him Fuchs was worth hiring. I'll be direct, Hay says, laying a folder on the table. Residential complex, Northern Province, 48 units, community infrastructure, a small bridge connecting to the main road. I've been through 3 contractors, first quit, second cut corners. I caught it in inspection and terminated. Third gave me a price that was offensive. Jack opens the folder, starts reading. I heard about your bridge project. Hay continues. Word travels in this industry. I heard you personally check the steel before concrete is poured. A pause. Most CEOs at your level don't do that anymore. Jack looks up. If it fails with my name on it. I'd rather know. Hay nods. Like that's the exact answer he was hoping for. 14-month timeline, Hay says. Substantial budget. And if this goes well, 2 more developments after it. Same scope, potentially larger. The room is quiet. Jack looks down at the folder. Detailed plans, serious scope. The kind of contract that would change Min Kang Construction's trajectory entirely. Take them from a good local company to something with real regional presence. He thinks about Fuchs, about the portfolio in his bag. He thinks about Tien and Mrs. Lan's restaurant. About Mother Loy glowing in the living room. He thinks about the bridge, steel and concrete, welds that hold under pressure. Build things that connect people. Build things that last. I'm interested, Jack says. They talk for 2 hours. Honest. Practical. The kind of conversation 2 serious people have when they're considering something real. At the end, Hay closes the folder. Extends his hand. Proposal by end of next week. Timeline, team structure, cost breakdown. If it's what I think it'll be, I think we'll be working together, Mr. Jack. Jack shakes it. Steady, firm, you'll have it by Thursday. He calls Fook from the car. Clear tomorrow afternoon, we have a proposal to build. Then he calls Tien. Second ring. How did it go? It went really well, Jack says. And means it completely. Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out. He tells her the whole drive home, every detail. And Tien listens, asks questions, pushes back on one timeline issue he hadn't fully thought through, and she's right about it. That's the other thing about Together, Jack thinks. It makes you sharper. That evening, everyone ends up at the farm again. Mother Loy cooked too much, as always. Uncle Dune appeared with fruit. Fook showed up because Jack mentioned dinner in passing. And Fook, it turns out, has nowhere better to be and a very healthy appetite. The conversation moves easily. The farm contract, the construction proposal, the bridge timeline, whether bamboo shoots are better stir-fried or in soup. Fook has a strong opinion about this, which surprises everyone, and the debate goes longer than it has any right to. At some point, Mother Loy is telling a story from when Jack was young, something embarrassing involving a chicken and a borrowed bicycle. Jack protests loudly. Everyone demands she continue. She continues. And Jack sits back. Just for a moment. Just to look. Mother Loy, laughing with her whole face. Uncle Dun watching her laugh like it's the best thing he's seen all week. Tien with her shoulder against Jack's, warm and completely present. Young Fook listening to the chicken story with pure delight, like he's exactly where he belongs. This is what was at stake, Jack thinks. Not the loan, not the deadline, not the contract or the numbers. This table, these people, this extraordinary, ordinary love. Later, Jack and Tien walk outside. The grapevines are dark shapes in the moonlight, patient and growing. You know what I keep thinking about? Tien says. What? That road, where we stood a few weeks ago. She looks up at him. You were alone, carrying everything, not sure how to move forward. And now look, the loan is gone, Jack says quietly. The company has a future. Mom is happy. You have Mrs. Land's contract. We built it, Tien says. All of it, the right way. A silence settles between them. Stars overhead, vines patient in the dark. Then Tien turns to face him. Jack, before your phone rang the other night, I was going to ask you something. He waits. She looks up at him, steady, clear, completely unafraid. I want to know where you see us. 5 years from now. 10. The farm, the company, this family we're building together. She holds his gaze. I want to know if we're building the same future, Jack. I want to know if what I see is what you see too. The night is still. Jack looks at her for a long moment. At the woman who dug bamboo shoots from a mountain to help him. Who stood on a road and said together like it was a promise. Who pushed back on a timeline concern in a car because she was right and she knew it. He reaches out, takes her hand. Tell me what you see, he says softly, and I'll tell you if it matches. She takes a breath and begins.